Hi friends, Mickey Mancus here and welcome to Out the Back Door. Today I'm going to be making a grape juice concentrate and then I'm canning it. Join me. So as you can see here, I was gifted a large amount of red globe grapes. I have washed these already and drained them. The reason I said I'm doing a concentrate today is because most people, when they juice their grapes, they'll add water to it when they're cooking it down in order to extract out all the liquid and everything from the grapes. Well, I'm not going to be doing that. It's going to be straight juice and that's it. I'm going to be using my sauce master to run these through. There's a special part here, it's called a grape spiral, because my regular spiral that I use is a little bit longer and a little more narrow. So this is the one that we have to use with the grapes here. So I'm going to set up our sauce master and then I'm going to show you how I'm running these through and go on to the next step. Okay, with the sauce master here, my juice is coming out here into a container that I've set underneath, and then the leftover, the skins and seeds and everything are coming out of the end here, and I've got another container. But there's still a lot of juice in here. So once I do get all this ground up, I'm going to pass this through a second time through here. I usually do that when I'm doing my tomatoes in the fall. I'll run them through like 2-3 times so that the skins are just really dry when they finally come out the last time. That's how much sauce I'm able to get out of the tomatoes. And then I turn around and I take the skins and I dehydrate them and I make a tomato powder out of it and use that in different recipes. I'm just going to continue grinding the grapes here. And being it is a red globe, we're not going to get like a dark purple or a light pale color like if they were using green grapes. This is going to be in between. Okay, you can see a little bit of seed debris coming out and that type of thing, but I'm going to be filtering this later, so that's not an issue right now. So I'm going to keep loading the hopper. I'm going to keep grinding these up, and I'll show you when we're at the next step. I've got my fruit sieve here that I guess you could have crushed your grapes in this also. But as long as I had that grape auger, that grape spindle, I decided that I was going to try to use that instead. But I don't want to get too much juice in here because it's not going to slip underneath the lip here. I got my jelly cloth in the strainer and it's damp. And I'm just going to slide that into the pot that I'm going to heat all the juice up. All I'm going to do then is carefully pour my juice in here. I'll let that run through the cloth. It's the same principle as when we're making jelly. And that's the one nice thing about this. When I do get this juice all made and everything, I'm going to be using this for drinking. I'm going to be canning it in pint-sized jars. And I realize that sounds like a small amount. That normally I put my juice in quart jars. But I'm going to put them in pint-sized jars because being it's a concentrate, and when I open a jar up, I can add a little more water to it to stretch it out a little bit. I'm not adding any sugar whatsoever to this because the grapes are sweet enough as they are, just, you know, plain. And then at the same time, I can always turn around and open up a few jars of the juice and make grape jelly out of them if I want. So, okay, back to grinding. You get a good workout doing this. Okay, last night when I had gone and dumped all of the grape juice into the sieve, I had that cloth in there and stuff. It was actually really slowing it down, which was a good thing. It was filtering it. But I ended up getting approximately a pint of like grape sauce, similar to applesauce. And so that's why it was taking so long to filter down through. So that's why today we're back at it, and I'm going to start canning it up today. But I want to show you, I did put it in bottles just so I had something to store it into the refrigerator. Can you see all the sediment that's in the bottom? Okay, I really don't want that in there. It's not going to hurt it any. It's just that it's not going to look as nice when you have that at the bottom. I suppose I could have gone and dumped all of this into a carboy and then actually racked it so that I wouldn't get the sediment, but that's not the case right now. I'm not giving this away. This is going to be for our consumption, so I'm not going to make a big deal out of it if there's a little bit of grape debris in my juice when I drink it. So something like this, I guess, you know, I did mention that you could use this for jelly. You can, but you're not going to get this beautiful crystal clear jelly out of it either unless you really filter it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start dumping these into my pot here, and I'm going to get them on the burner, and I'm going to start heating that up. I have the flame underneath the canner right now so I can get my water heated up in there. And I also have my jars in the oven at 225 degrees heating. Now I realize when you're hot water bath canning that if you're canning more than 10 minutes, you really don't have to sterilize your jars. This is sterilizing the jars by doing this, but it's also heating them up because I want the jar's hot and my juice is going to be hot, and I'm going to be able to put it into the canner and it's going to come up to a boil a lot faster than if I'm just sticking everything in there cold. And that's the purpose I'm doing that as far as heating up the jars. So let's start dumping this in and see what happens. All right, now if I put it in there slowly, hopefully most of the sediment in the bottom's going to stay down there. But you've got to take your time, and I'll keep an eye out to see when it starts coming up to the neck of the bottle, and I'll stop. And maybe I'll try to put it through a sieve and I'll drink that because it's nice and cold right now. This is really sweet. So as I mentioned before, I am not going to add any sugar to it whatsoever. In fact, when I do any of my juices, for the most part, I don't add sugar, or a very, very small amount. Say like if I'm doing a crabapple juice. Okay, I can see the sediment starting to come, so I'm going to back off. And that's pretty good because I only have maybe about a ½ an inch of liquid and sediment left in the bottom of the bottle there. Just set that aside. Okay, I'm going to continue dumping the juice into my pot here, and I'm going to get it onto the burner, and then we'll get to the next step. All right, I checked my juice with my heat gun, and I was up to like 170 degrees. I don't need to bring it to a boil. So I am going to start filling my jars. And I had just taken my jars out of the oven. I'm going to leave about a ½ an inch headspace on these. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, this is actually a juice concentrate. It's just pure straight juice from the grapes itself. Now see, I've done other juice concentrates in the past. I've done like a plum juice, and I'll add water to that when I open it also. But one of the reasons I had done that was that I could make plum jelly later on with it also. All right, I'm going to continue filling these up, and then I'll get right back to you. All right, I was short just a tiny bit in one jar, not a big deal. If I had only had, say, like a ½ a jar on that one, I would have just put it in the refrigerator. Make sure that you're wiping down your rims. And to start with, I was going to give some of these away, but I decided as long as it wasn't as clear as I could have made it, I'm going to hang on to these as I mentioned. So normally when I can something for our family, I just automatically grab the Tatler lids. And being I was going to give these away, I opened up a box of the Kerr lids, the metal flats, and as long as I had them up and it was open, I just decided that's what I'm going to be using today. I'll just set those on there. I turned the heat off underneath my water bath because I was at a rolling boil already. So it won't take very long once I get the jar set back into it for it to come back up to boil. You know, normally I mention to put your bands on fingertip tight, and everybody's got different fingertip tight, and that the purpose is because we don't want it on there too tight in order to let the air escape from the jar while it's processing. That's what's going to cause that vacuum to pull the lid down on there to keep the seal. One thing I haven't mentioned before is some of you may be using off-brand metal flats, which is no big deal, but if they're thicker, a heavier duty, and actually the ball and the Kerr lids used to be thicker. They're thinner now, and that's our biggest complaint, that we're having failures, and because there's not enough gasket material on there, they're made thinner. Anyway, if you're using a thicker one, please make sure that you're not over tightening your bands, because if you get buckling, once you take your jars out of the canner, and if your lids have buckled up, they kind of pinch in certain areas and stuff and they'll buckle up, you're going to have to reprocess it. And 99% of the time the blame is the band was on too tight if you have a buckled lid. So alright, these are all ready to go on the canner. I'm going to get it going. Alright, all the jars are into the canner. I'm able to fit quite a few of them in there, but we do have a dozen of the pint jars in there. We are going to process it for 5 minutes, and that's it. For some reason, I was thinking it was 10 minutes. And I went and I looked it up just to double check to make sure, and it's like for the grape juice, all we have to do is process for 5 minutes. So it's a good thing that I did have my jars in the oven to sterilize for 20 minutes at 225 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've got this heating up quickly because, like I said, the water was at a boil already before I put the jars in, and I had turned it off, and I can hear it really starting to rev up in there, so it shouldn't take very long. So as soon as we're done with that, I'll take them out and we'll go from there. As tempting as it may be, please don't tilt your jars to get the excess water off the top. Okay, the processing went super quick. And now I'm going to let my jars sit and cool. It's early afternoon, just after lunchtime right now, and normally I end up finishing my canning in the evening, so I let my jars sit overnight. I'll check these later this afternoon just to make sure that all the tops have sucked down, that I don't see anything that's bubbled or anything, but I'll still leave them sit until probably later this evening, and then I'll check the band, then I'll take the bands off of them and just double check to make sure that they're all sealed, and I'll wash them up and label them and get them down into the pantry. And again, a reminder, this is a concentrate, so I will be adding about half the amount of water. We've got pint jars here, and I'll probably add 1 cup of water to it when I do open it up and I'm going to drink it. If you don't want to, that's fine. You can drink it straight like this. I just prefer to water it down a tiny bit so it isn't so sugary, so rich or whatever, and I can enjoy a little bit bigger glass of it. So if this is your first time to the channel, welcome, and please consider subscribing if you like the video, and give me a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below because I really would like to hear from you. So until next time, you have a wonderful day. God bless. I see a stem.